Well, good morning, beloved ones. Turn to somebody and tell them, I see you. I see you. I see you. And you look marvelous, marvelous, marvelous. I see you. And there's a scripture that says, and I thank my God for you. Isn't that right? I thank my God for you. Tell somebody, I thank my God for you. I thank my God for you. Yes. Because, see, we're in this together, friends. We cannot do this thing called life without one another. So it's good to acknowledge that we are grateful and thankful for each other, for all of the blessings that we bring to one another. You know, I just love the idea that we actually have a holiday that is dedicated to having us pause for a moment and to give thanks and to express gratitude for the things, not only the things that we have, but the things that we're simply grateful for. I think that's a wonderful idea to have a holiday that celebrates that, even though the historical premise for the holiday is not quite as true as we've been told. We all know that, right? Yes, not quite as true as we've been told. And I was thinking a lot this morning. I said, wow, this whole thing with alternative facts and fake news and we had to realize that, you know, coming up in school, how much fake news were we given? How much fake reality, right? Because everybody here knows the story. We're all told Thanksgiving the Pilgrims came and the Indians had a big feast, and that may have been true to some level. But for the most part, Native Americans, the indigenous people of this land, do not see it as that. They see Thanksgiving as a day of sorrow for them. And they experience great sorrow because we know what happens after the supposedly coming together with, of course, the decimation of a whole people. And in some cases, the massacre of a people. And so I was thinking about all that, and I said, but still the idea of a day for giving thanks is still a good one. It's just that I approach it now with a more mature understanding and not based on, you know, the myth that I was fed when I was, you know, in the third grade or the little plays that I did back then. I still think that it is a wonderful and a noble idea. It's a spiritual idea and a powerful thing to be able to be grateful, to feel a sense of gratitude, and to have a day in which we immerse ourselves in the consciousness of thanksgiving, in the consciousness of praise, in the consciousness of gratefulness. And so we continue to celebrate in that consciousness and in that manner. I had a congregant years ago who, whenever you would ask him how he was doing, he would always respond by saying, I'm great and grateful. I'm great and grateful. And I love that phrase. And he would always say, that's how you doing? He said, oh, I'm great and grateful. And I love it, but we know that the term I'm great and grateful, that gratefulness really has a connection to being thankfulness. But as I began to work with that word and to meditate upon it, because sometimes you get a lot of insights when you meditate upon the word, right? That's what the Bible says, we should meditate upon the word. But I'm a wordsmith, so sometimes I let words speak to me beyond what their traditional meaning is. So I'm thinking, okay, to be great and grateful, even though to be grateful might be connected to Thanksgiving, what if it also means being full of greatness? What if it means being full of great? If I'm grateful, I might be full of great. Full of greatness. Grateful. And so I like that. Now, it's no secret that all of us are filled with greatness. I tell you that every Sunday, just about, right? My job is to inspire you to remember your greatness. And so it's no secret that we are all filled with greatness, or at least that we have the potential to be great. That spiritually speaking, we are filled with the qualities and the essence of the divine, of God. And yet, how many of us really, really feel as if we are living up to our potential? That we're actually living up to our greatness? If I'm honest with myself, I'd have to say that I'm good, but not necessarily great. I'm good, but not great, right? In fact, I'm sort of comfortable with being good. I'm comfortable with being good, and therein lies the problem, okay? Because, see, too often we get very comfortable with just being good, good enough. What I'm doing, it's good enough. How I'm showing up, it's good enough. Because we're even told that we should be to feel that we're good enough. And sometimes I even trick myself by saying, well, look, my good is better than most people's excellent. Yeah, I like to trick myself. So I'll you know what I mean? Which means to me, it gives me really an excuse, because all that does is I'm letting myself off the hook, right? All that is as an excuse for me for not being or doing better. I can rest on my laurels. Well, look, I've done some good stuff. I've done more than most have. Have you ever said these kinds of things about yourself, to yourself? Yes. All right? I'm good. My good is good. But there's a phrase that I came across the other day that I thought was so powerful, and it comes from the book, From Good to Great. And a couple of years ago, that was a very popular book. And the phrase that came out of this book, From Good to Great, was that good is the enemy of great. Don't you? I love that. Good is the enemy of great. Meaning that if we just settle for being good, then we probably won't reach for great. You know, if you get very comfortable with just being good enough, then you're not going to reach toward being your best or being your highest self or reaching to a higher level of expression or reaching for the heights of your own innate potential, because you just feel, I'm good enough. But part of our evolution, spiritually, mentally, physically, should be about moving from good to great. Moving from good to great. Now, even though that book was talking about business companies, and they were writing it for business people, being able to take their companies from a level of good, where the companies were, they were doing all right, they were surviving, but they wanted to be thriving. They wanted to move from good to great. And so that was really for them. However, as I looked at some of the concepts and I thought about this whole concept of moving from good to great, I thought, well, there's probably some things that would apply to us as well, right? That if we're going to evolve and grow, that means that we too can move from good to great. Because things will never change if we are not willing to do what? Okay, so a few of you got that. I'm not sure, but it came from over here. Things will never change if we are not willing to do what? Change. They will never change if we're not willing to change. So I began to think about, well, what would it take for us to be able to move from good to great, right? And so I started thinking, what are the qualities that we need? And I thought, well, first thing, if you're going to try to move from good to great, the first thing that you would have to have, I think, or you'd want to start with, having a vision. A vision from where for where you would like to go. Or a vision of what would it take from you to move from where you are to another place, a higher place, or a higher function or a higher expression and experience of life? What would it take? You have to have a vision. Because see, if we are comfortable in our place, if we are comfortable, which means that we might not have a vision. If you're comfortable with being good enough, it might mean that you don't have a vision, because you're comfortable with right where you are, right? You have no vision for doing anything different, being anything different. We're kind of content. We're content to have things stay the same, especially if it's not too painful, it's not needling us, right? If we're comfortable, well, then we get comfortable and content with things staying the same. Or we might get comfortable with just having life happen. We let it happen. Let it unfold as it should. Let it unfold. We have no sense of direction, no sense of needing to or wanting to move onward and upward. And we may even become stagnant. And I just said earlier that when things are stagnant, they either die or they atrophy, right? Think about it. Water, the essence of life, the symbol of life. When water is stagnant, there's no life usually in it, right? In order for water to carry the quality, it has to be stirred up, right? There has to be movement in the water to keep it fresh. That's why you have rivers that flow and water that moves, because water that's stagnant, which carries life, and we all need water to what? To live. Think about it. When the living waters in us become stagnant and we become stuck, we get poisoned and inwardly eventually either atrophy or die. So there has to be some type of vision to move from the place, some kind of stirring up of the soul, some kind of movement that happens within our being, moving us from good to great, right? Because life is about growth. It is about transformation. It is about change. And since it's going to do that anyway, why not do it consciously? Why not participate in the growth of your own life from a conscious standpoint? Sure, you could just sit around and say, I'm going to wait for life to happen. And life does happen all the time. But sometimes then we think it happens to us. We become that victim. Why is life always happening to us instead of through us? Through me. Through the power of God in me. I'm not a victim. So, if you're going to move from good to great, we're going to start with having a vision. What that vision would look like for you, because the vision for your life is going to be different than the vision for my life. And the vision that God places in your heart is going to be different than the vision God places in my heart. But there is some type of vision, and we need to be able to tap into it rather than act like we have no part in this thing called life. So just having a vision is just not enough, right? Because we also know that we have plenty of ideas that flow through our minds. We have plenty of things that we can envision for our lives, and we do, right? But that's not enough, because if you truly want the vision to take legs and to become a reality, you have to truly want it. You have to want the vision. You have to want it enough to actually move towards it. See, we want a lot of stuff, but we don't want it enough to take any kind of action to move towards it. We just kind of want it, okay? But if you really want something, you have to actually want it enough to move towards it. If not, then it simply becomes a grand vision that is empty of true desire. And many of us I've had $1 million ideas, several of them. So have you. We have had grand ideas and grand visions for what we could do. We just haven't acted on them. There is not a person here who the Spirit of God has not placed upon you and in your sphere something wonderful and grand for you to do. Some move and some don't. And when we don't, it becomes an empty vision, an empty desire. And so, you've got to have vision, but you've got to have deep desire. You've got to want to take action. You've got to want the vision and want the dream. Because having a deep desire really is what's going to give you the fuel to take action. You've got to want it. The wanting, the desire gives you the fuel for action. If you're going to move from good to great, then you have to have desire. So you've got to have vision. Now we have to have desire to move upon that vision, to want to act on that vision. And desire is something, I'm talking about not just egotistical want. I'm talking about desire from the Father. I'm talking about a vision that's coming from a higher place in you. I'm talking about something that's calling you up higher and further, not just, I think I'd like to get that, red Corvette. You can have that, but that shouldn't be your life's vision and life's purpose. That's an add-on. You're going to get that. But you get it when you're living this higher vision within your own being. So when there is enough of this energy, this desire that carries the energy of the divine with it, then it makes moving from good to great a little easier. When you can tap into the divine desire, that God energy that moves us, that soul-stirring stuff, that moves us into action, what will happen is we then can find ourselves being guided in order to get that soul-stirring action to be what I call to have inspired action. You got a vision, an inspired vision, and you want it, you desire it. Now you have to have inspired action. And in order to have this inspired action, see, when you have inspired action, it's different than just you struggling on your own. Inspired action has the energy and the backing of God behind it. And it moves you from a different place. It moves from within. You sort of get up and you're doing. You're functioning. And so in order to have that, you've got to be connected to the divine so that you can be inspired to take inspired action. So you got to have the vision, you got to have a deep desire, and then you've got to stay connected somehow to the divine so that energy can move you from one place to the other, move you from good to what? Great. Without you struggling. I got to be great. I want to be great. It's not about that. There's choice on your part. There's action on your part. Yes, you must do. But when it comes from that divine place within you through that inspired action, then all of a sudden the struggle is not there so much. So the question that you're going to be asking yourself is, do you want your vision enough to act upon it? Because that will be the defining question for you. Because I say I want a lot of things, and then I have to ask myself, do I want it enough to act upon it? And I realize if I'm not acting, then it means that I really don't want it. Not that I can't have it, it's just that I haven't acted upon it, so I don't want it. If I want it, I'm going to act. And if you don't, you won't. So we can't have all these excuses. Well, I couldn't, you see what had happened was, and why I can't do this, and Because inspired action is not tuned into all the things that you can't do and it has nothing to do with any of that. If the desire is deep and you truly touch the space of God within you, that desire from God, desire from the Father will begin to move you, and you will move towards that which you are seeking and that which is seeking you. Okay? So you've got to test yourself and ask yourself, do I want my vision enough to act upon it? Now, the secret from moving from good to great is not only resting in having inspired action, but it is about maintaining it. Because I've even had great vision, I've had a desire, I've had inspired action, but I've also had challenge and difficulty in maintaining it, which means I did it for a while, and then all of a sudden I was not able to keep it up. You've got to be willing to take action again and again and again. You've got to be willing to be in movement again and again, in motion again and again and again, okay? So it means that you have to be steadfast. You've got to be willing to be on point with your actions and move steadfastly through the actions, or else if you don't, then the vision will fade, your dreams will die, and the status quo will once again be the expression over your life. And you'll be looking around again saying, wow, what happened? I still am in the same place. I haven't done what I felt I was called to do. I haven't desired anything greater. Good enough will keep you in place. But you have to have the steadfastness, that is the ability to keep on keeping on. That's what steadfastness means, the ability to keep on keeping on. And that does not mean that there won't be challenges and that there won't be obstacles, that there won't be twists and turns. When the river is moving down, there are boulders in the way, there are twigs, tree branch, debris, garbage, all kinds of stuff. But the river keeps moving. It finds a way around. It keeps on keeping on, over the rocks, under the rocks, around the rocks. Whatever challenges, we must keep on keeping on. Moving from good to great, moving forward and upward and onward. And so if we're going to move to our greater destiny and to our greater vision, then we've got to have this ability to not give up, not quit, but to stay connected and stay committed. Stay connected and stay committed. Say connected and committed. Once again, say connected and committed. This is what enables you to kind of move forward. Now, as you begin this process of moving from good to great, moving into your greater destiny and the vision for your life, you have to sometimes expand your territory and expand the potential. Now, to evolve means that you must leave the place where you are. You have to leave the place where you are, and sometimes it means that you have to leave the familiar behind in order to move forward with your destiny, in order to possess a new land. If you're asking God to increase your territory, you got to be willing to move into the territory. Right? Because we pray, expand my territory, and all these opportunities come, but we like, can't leave that, can't do that, can't make that change. So if you're going to expand the territory, you've got to move in to the territory to possess the land. I love the scripture that comes from Genesis, and this is when God is calling Abraham. And the message begins with, I'm reading from Genesis, Genesis 12. 1 through 4. And the Lord said to Abram, and his name hadn't changed yet to Abraham. So you get a name change when you start putting on that spiritual energy. But he hadn't had that yet. He was just beginning this journey. So he was Abram. And as he moves on through his journey, he becomes Abraham. And the Ha is the breath of God. The Ha is the inspiration of the Almighty. The Ha is the living spirit of God. So when spirit touches you, you get that Ha. All right? So he becomes Abraham. So right now, he says to Abram, leave your native country, your relatives, and your father's family, and go to the land that I will show you. I will make you into a great nation. I will bless you and make you famous, and you will be a blessing to others. I will bless those who bless you and curse those who treat you with contempt. All the families on earth will be blessed through you. So Abram departed as the Lord had instructed, and Lot went with him. Abram was 75 years old when he left Haran. 75. So a little further on in the next chapter, Abram goes on and he's traveling with his nephew Lot. And they're leaving the land that had been very familiar to them, that they were very comfortable with. And God all of a sudden tells them, get up from this land, and I want you to move, and you're going to go to a new place that I'm going to give you. And Abram just, all right, and he gets up and he goes. But as he and Lot are traveling, their families grow and their richness grows, and they begin to quarrel about who's going to be where, which part of the family is going to take which part. And so Abram says to Lot, I tell you what, you go ahead and pick the land you want to inhabit for your people, and then I'll take whatever you leave for me. And of course, Lot chooses what? He chooses the best part. Abram says, fine. Lot goes on his way. So in the next chapter, on 13, verse 13, and I'm reading from 13, verse 14 through 17. And it says, after Lot had gone, the Lord said to Abram, look as far as you can see in every direction, north and south, east and west. I am giving you all this land, as far as you can see, to you and your descendants as a permanent possession. And I will give you so many descendants that like the dust of the earth or the sand of the earth, they cannot be counted. Go and walk through the land in every direction, for I am giving it to you. He says, look, I want you to look everywhere your eye can see. Look north, south, east, west, as far as you can see. I'm going to give you all of that. Everything you can see, I'm giving it to you. Go and walk through the land because I've given it to you. So everything that you see is something that you can possess, you can have, you can walk through, but there's action, right? He didn't say, I'm giving you all this great land, everything you can see, but pitch a tent and here's where I want you to stay. Doesn't make sense, right? No, he says what? Go, walk through the land and possess it because I'm giving it to you. And that begins the journey of the so-called promised land. Now, whether Abram and Abraham get to the promised land is one thing, because it gets passed on, this promise gets passed on from generation to generation to generation, so that we too have the promise. Look northward, look southward, look eastward, westward. Everything you see, I'm giving it to you. Walk throughout the land and possess it because I have given it to you. That's powerful stuff. And what I love is that Abraham, or Abram at that time, was 75 years old when he started his new journey. He was 75 years old when God gave him a new vision, a vision of a promised land. He gave him a call to move from good to great at 75. Now, you would think by 75, he was probably pretty comfortable with his life, right? Pretty comfortable with being good enough, with having what he had. It was enough for him, right? But sometimes, friends, good is not enough because God intends for us to live not just in goodness, but in greatness. God intends for us to live with a higher vision and to keep it moving, to keep evolving, to keep growing, to not be stagnant, but to keep moving from good to great. And when you get to great, you got to move again because that great becomes good. So you got to move from that great to a even greater great. From a good to a greater great. That's the way you got to keep it moving. Tell somebody, keep it moving. Keep it moving. Keep it moving. Now, we are getting ready to close out this year. And it's been a year. 2017 has been a year. But we're getting ready to move into a new year. And so, Spirit has been saying we can use these few weeks leading up to this new year, the next few weeks, not only in reflecting upon where we've been and what has happened, but to also, more importantly, to begin to create the vision for where it is we want to go. We want to catch the vision. You want to catch the vision for your life. And to do that, you might want to listen, to try to listen, to connect. So we look and we listen, or we listen and we look. But you want to get ready to move into this new year from good to great. And so I'm going to invite you to spend time. Usually I do this at, on New Year's Eve, but it's time to start now. We don't need to wait till December 31st to figure out where we want to go for January 1st. Let's begin now. Let's enter into this new territory, this promised land, this beautiful goodness and greatness that God has for us, because God has plans for you. There's a scripture in Jeremiah that says, I know the plans that I have for you. And they are plans to what? To prosper you. Not to bring harm to you, but to prosper you. So God has plans to prosper us and to move us and to bless us and to lift us up from the place where we are to the place where God would have us be, from good to great. So the question is, are you ready? Yes. That's right, because it's time to go. It's time to move. If you haven't figured it out, it's time to move. So let's move from good to great. Blessings and namaste. Blessings. Namaste. Blessings. And I'm going to invite you to join us because we're going to be working on this journey of moving into our new year.